What is it that you fight for in your business today? What's your mission, so to speak?
We help visionary entrepreneurs to achieve their goals through effective strategies, focusing on personal branding. What I realized in today's society is that the majority of society, intentionally or not, or the reason I think doesn't matter, the fact for me was most people are followers. They see, they hear, they follow orders. And one of my main core values is self-responsibility. And what that taught me is today's society, we need leaders, true leaders, goal getters, people who get stuff done, people who don't wait for the change, but decide to be the change. Get up and get it done. Don't wait for anybody or anything. You can literally be the change, like all of us. We can be the change for anything if we just are brave enough, get up and get stuff done. Start. The first step. We don't need to achieve everything at one time. We don't need to climb the mountain with one step. We just decide to change and to be part of it and take the lead. True leaders. That's why my company is called Strategy Achievers. We don't try. We don't hope. We achieve stuff. It's a qualifier. Achievers.
Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen, to everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell, from the doctor saving lives at your local hospital, to the war veteran down the street who risked his life for our freedom, to the police officers and the firefighters who risk their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling. But there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored: the entrepreneur, the creator, the producer, the ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what, I can fix that. I can help people. I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world. Others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks on the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to the Hero Show. My name's Richard Matthews, and today I have the pleasure of having on the line Pascal Bachmann. Pascal, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Glad to have you here.
And
I know we were just chatting a little bit before we got on to the thing. You're coming in from North Carolina, and you're on day 57 of a 100-day water fast. Is that right?
yeah, that's right.
That's crazy to me. I'm sure it's a good kind of crazy, but we can talk a little bit more about that as we get in. We always start off at the beginning of these interviews and get into who you are a little bit, just so our audience knows who you are. And then we'll start diving into your story. So I have your bio here. Pascal is a personal branding and PR expert, international speaker, author, life and business strategist with 30 years of experience. He's coached over 20,000 people, built 8 businesses in 4 different industries, and generated 8 figures. As the CEO of Strategy Achievers, Pascal empowers entrepreneurs, speakers, authors, public figures, influencers, and celebrities to achieve success and fulfillment. Featured by Yahoo and New York Finance as top entrepreneurs to follow, Pascal's value-driven branding and PR services provide top-notch exposure to clients who want to grow their business. So with that introduction, Pascal, why don't you start us off? I want to talk a little about what's your business like? Who do you serve? What do you do for them?
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot to say. To make it very short, today we build a brand that drives impact. For me, it's like personal branding. It's super important in today's age. I think and believe that we should own your name. It's no longer the best service or product that wins. It's the best known service or products that wins. And what many brands out there forget, that people do business with people, trust people, engage with people, create services and products. And to hide behind a brand, it's no longer a very good and smart idea, because we need to interact with human beings and really be brave enough and step forward and tell the world who we are and why we express and do what we do. And for myself, this is truly what I believe in. For me, a personal brand is the expression of who you truly are as a human being, your core values. Why do you do what you do? And that we should prioritize when it comes to a personal brand. And this is what we focus on with our current business. I was in the health industry for more than 20 years. Didn't want to have that stamp anymore, the health guy, the guru in all that area. We treat more than 20,000 people in that area, did a lot of studies. I'm still very healthy for myself. We're going to talk about that. You mentioned that. I went into that area of building brands and create the leaders that I believe today's society needs to create the world that you and I and our kids want to live in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for people who aren't familiar with the personal brand, like you probably your most famous personal brand behind businesses would be like Elon Musk today, right? He's the personal brand behind Tesla and X now, which they rebranded Twitter from, and SpaceX and the Neuralink. He's got several businesses that his brand can help build those because of how big he is. And like that's just a big version of that. If you go back a few years, it might have been Steve Jobs for Apple, or in this today's day and age, it's Tim Cook for Apple. But that's high level kind of stuff. But you're saying that it's that personal brand today is not just an optional part of growing a company, it's a required part of growing a company.
Absolutely 100%. And you just nailed it. These are exactly the examples that I tell entrepreneurs who still have to believe it's not about me. I don't want to be in a spotlight. It's about the service. It's about the products. And I think that time is over. Like we see how the big guys do it. Why shouldn't we follow their example? Because at the end, what we do is, at least I do that. If I get a recommendation from anyone, I go on Google and check that person out. Who is she or he? And if Google tells me, like, I don't know who you're talking about, that's usually not a good sign. We build trust faster if everybody, not just myself, the time is also over that we can proclaim how good we are in what we do. Third parties and authorities should confirm that. So if Yahoo Finance, if Google, if New York Times, if entrepreneur.com, if Forbes, if all these platforms or podcasts and TV shows confirm, yes, he or she is the go-to person in that industry, it just builds trust much faster. The trust that we as entrepreneurs need today, because there's a lot of stuff out there that is not really trustworthy or creates disappointments or misleading. And that's actually the main drive for me, to create true leaders, to make them shine, to make them dominate their industry, because I believe that these people are the true authorities again that today's society needs between all these noises that we have today.
Yeah, I really love that. It's one of the things that we build Pushback Podcast is we talk a lot about how your podcast can be a huge part of your personal brand. And there's lots of aspects to that. It can be like in my case, right? I'm hosting this show and we've got 250 plus episodes on this podcast, or you as a guest, right? You can come and be a guest on shows like this and get the authority that comes from that. I do the same kind of thing where I guest on other people's podcasts. I've been on 40 plus podcasts. When you go and look up my name, there's me on all sorts of different things talking about those things. That's just one aspect of it, is just the podcast world. But you're right, if people look you up and they can't find you because you don't exist anywhere, how can they trust your business? One of the things that I talk about nowadays is everyone's familiar with the information age, right? And I tell people that information age is dead. YouTube and TikTok killed it. You can have whatever information you want anywhere. It's all available. We're in now what I call the trust age. And the trust age means that if you want someone to buy from you, you have to get them to trust you before they ever even consider even becoming a lead. Like you won't even have the opportunity to get a lead for them to become a lead and build trust with them. You have to build that trust ahead of time. That's what I call the trust age.
I love that. There's a lot of similarity. We like literally, I would say 95% of the entrepreneurs and on LinkedIn, for example, everybody is super successful and everybody show their best picture, which is normal. But once you are on a call with them and they start to trust you, you found out that many of them are not as successful as they appear. But when I asked them, so what do you believe is the number one thing you need help? Literally 95% of the time, I need more lead. I need more sales. And they go all after that. And what I try to make them understand is that should be your priority, because all these leads gonna check you out online and you're gonna literally lose 50 to 70% of them because you don't appear and have that trust factor that they need in order to give you the first shot. How about you build brand first, and now 90% of these leads are actually qualified because they trust you based on what they see after they do the research. For me, this is a huge, we actually did a study with a client. We took one before he started, it was a guy in the fitness industry. Before he started with us on LinkedIn, and the conversion rate to discovery call, I believe, was 7%. And after he worked with us and we built the credibility and authority and expert status that he needed to appear online as who he truly is, the conversion rate, we did the same thing with 100 leads again, was like almost reverse 72 or 73 that turned into discovery calls just because of he had the credibility that he needs for the leads to trust him. For
That's
me, that's a huge
tru-
one.
trust before leads. That's one of the things that I think a lot of businesses miss today. If you want to succeed today, you have to build trust before you can build leads. And if you try to go the other way around, it's just not going to work out for you. So I'm a big proponent of that. What I want to dive into then is your origin story. How did you get here? So every good comic book hero has an origin story. It's a thing that made them into the hero they are today. Were you born a hero, or were you bit by a radioactive spider that made you want to build a PR industry, PR company? Where do you start in a job and eventually become an entrepreneur? Basically, where'd you come from?
Yeah, absolutely not. I come from Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland. I think a relationship that I consider is normal because I grew up in it. For most people, it's not. I grew up in an orphanage in Switzerland and did pretty much everything that teenagers are taught not to do. So I steal, I deal with drugs, I beat up people, I did everything to get attention. I guess I missed that or needed that because I didn't get it from my parents and I attracted people. But that was the wrong crowd. So I went deeper and deeper into that and became an example for many. So I was a leader in the early age, but for the wrong crowd and for the wrong thing. But I had an epiphany. I started to do taekwondo after a while, or actually in the process of going to taekwondo, I felt, okay, I have to do something. An internship in the US, in Switzerland is a little bit different than in the US. Usually 90% of the teenagers do an internship. They don't go to college. So I need to do something. And I remember what I choose to do is I became a butcher because I was in front of this butcher store with the gang that we hang out. We smoke joints and deal and stuff and drink and all that stuff. This 2 meter huge guy, the butcher, came out like very angry and crushed us. He goddamn teenagers, like, why don't you? And blah, blah, blah. And he actually said, like, why don't you start doing something smart and do an internship? And I thought, okay, next day I walked in there. They accepted me. I started an internship there for 3 years, became a butcher. And during that process, I went to a taekwondo class, which was the master was a Korean. He was in the Vietnam War. He was world champion, 67, I believe, in taekwondo. And I was just completely blown away. Discipline when I walked into that dojan in Korea, like I was in there looking, the door open, someone came in, and the whole room was raw. Like everybody, like extreme. I never experienced something like that before. So I decided to join. And then I went into more martial arts, which pretty much changed my life. I learned discipline. I learned consistency. I learned respect, not just within the training, but also how do you show up in life in front of pretty much everybody, including nature, animals, like everything. And yeah, from there, I decided to leave Switzerland. I moved to Thailand. I moved into, after fighting at the World Championship in Taiwan, I decided to switch to Muay Thai. So I went to Thailand for 3 years in and out, had an accident that stopped my career as a fighter. And then I came back to Switzerland and decided to actually heal people. That's part of what we learned in Taekwondo. We didn't just break the nose, we learned how to correct it and actually the whole nutrition part and how to take care of your body. So after my accident, I was in Thailand and learn all that stuff in a traditional Chinese hospital. After I was recovered, about a year later, I went to Switzerland, opened a practice for Asian therapies, and I was in the health industry for almost 20 years before I decided, okay, let's stop that. In that period, I opened 7 other businesses and then came to the US and thought, okay, one of the most important thing in all these businesses to have success is personal branding. Let's focus on that. Came to the US and it was super easy for me to make a fast connection with the right people. So we grow pretty fast and successful. So today we work with people like Brian Tracy. I actually wrote a book here with Brian, Succeeding in Business in Any Market. I speak for Ty Lopez on different events, but that's basically the journey from where I started to here.
Yeah. So you started in an orphanage and then you became a butcher's apprentice, got into Taekwondo, became a champion, then went into Muay Thai, and then came back, started a bunch of businesses, and eventually ended up in the personal branding business. That's a quite a journey. My son and I actually started doing Taekwondo this last year. So we're like 1 year into our training for Taekwondo. Our master actually teaches, he cross trains Taekwondo and Muay Thai. So that's the other one that we're learning a little. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that as well. I can see the same kind of thing, the discipline, and he does the same kind of focus, right? It's not just learning how to fight, but learning how to take care of your body and learning how to discipline yourself and learning there's a lot of aspects to the practice of Taekwondo that is a lot more than I know how to throw a punch or throw a kick, which I think is really fascinating. The more that I do it, the more I realize, hey, whether or not it's Taekwondo, somewhat you should have probably a martial art in your life at some point because of how universally applicable the skills are to other areas of your life and your business in particular.
Yeah, completely agree. Nice. I'm happy for you, son.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a,
So,
yeah.
that's a wild story to get where you are here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about your superpower, right? Every iconic hero has a superpower, whether that's a fancy flying suit made by their genius intellect or the ability to call down thunder from the sky or super strength, whatever it is. In the real world, heroes have what I call a zone of genius, which is either a skill or a set of skills that you were born with or you developed over the course of your career that really sets you apart, that allow you to energize all your other skills. The way I like to frame it for my guests, if you look at all the skills that you've developed over the course of your career, there's probably a common thread that ties all those skills together. And so, with that framing, what do you think your superpower is in your business today?
Definitely to create the discipline to be consistent. Because for me, it's like you can literally learn anything you truly want. And what you need in order to really become successful is you need to have the discipline to be consistent. And that's what I call my superpower for myself. I made everything successful, not because I'm better than anybody, but I discovered my true interest and the natural thing that I have, probably from how I grew up. To fail is not even an option, not a thought. If I decide something, I'm gonna achieve. For example, the water fast that we're gonna talk about, I rather die than not achieve 100 days without any food. And this is my attitude, like towards everything. Commitment, discipline, consistency brings me anywhere.
It's an amazing sort of superpower too, because consistency, I mentioned before, we run a podcast company. And one of the things that we have, one of our marketing tools we have is called the 10 Commandments of Podcasting. I think it's commandment number 2 is thou shalt be consistent. It's just a matter of if you actually show up. In our case, we talk about weekly, record a weekly podcast every week, and you do that for a year or 2 years or 3 years, it'll dramatically change your business. That's just one category, right? It's just podcasting, but it's true in every area. We just talked about Taekwondo. We have the consistently showing up and doing the workouts with our master, like has had a dramatic impact on the way my son and I's bodies look over the last couple, right? I put on 10 pounds of muscle and got quite fit because we showed up and we're just consistent with it. And the more I learn about consistency, the more I realize that like consistency is probably one of the most underrated superpowers in the world because if you will just show up every day, you don't even have to try to get better. Just the act of showing up every day will make you better and also puts you so far ahead of anyone else who lacks the discipline to show up regularly.
Absolutely agree. Like you said, in every area of life. This, for example, is in my Bible. It's in German and English, but it's completely full of notes everywhere. Even that, when we went to church, I went to an international church in Switzerland, and I didn't understand this guy, Jesus. For me, the Bible was contradicting each other. So I told the pastor, hey, I have questions. It's not enough for me to sit here. I don't want to be a church goer, come here, pretend to be something, go out and live my life. I want to apply stuff. But in order to apply, I need to understand it. So I decided to go see the pastor every week, 2 hours beside the church, one on one, and mark everything. I said, listen, I understand this, but here, for me, I just don't get it. Even there, consistency, like again, commitment. I want to understand it. Discipline, go every week and go for a long period of time. And you start to learn stuff so that you are able to apply it in everyday life, whatever your decision is. For me, it was the Bible, then it was Taekwondo. It was like in all areas of life, I don't want to be average. If I decide to do something, I want to master that part. I make a decision, I make a commitment, and then literally anywhere, even in the marriage. Like you try and try and try with consistency. And of course, if more people are involved, you're not the only one anymore and need always more than one parties, but you can literally apply that everywhere and achieve extraordinary results.
Absolutely. Like on the marriage thing, one of the things that like my wife and I started 2 or 3 years ago now is we take a morning walk. And man, that morning walk together, when we consistently apply that, we're healthier, we're happier, we have a better relationship, right? And it's just showing up to consistently do something together every single day. Man, there is nothing that compares to consistently taking action, even if it's small
Yeah,
actions, taking a walk or reading your Bible,
yeah,
recording a podcast.
yeah, yeah.
I
Nice.
I want to talk a little bit then about the flip side, right? So if your superpower is one side of the coin, the flip side of that coin is your fatal flaw. Superman has his kryptonite, or Wonder Woman can't remove her bracelets of victory without going mad. You probably have a flaw that's held you back in your business, something you struggled with. For me, it was a couple of things. I struggled with perfectionism for a long time, which meant like I was one of those tinkerers. Like I can always make it a little bit better before I ship it, and then I never ship anything. Then you don't have a business. Or lack of self care, which for me brought itself out in not having a good relationship with time, or not having a good relationship with my clients, letting them walk all over me. But I think more important than what is the flaw is how have you worked to overcome it so you could continue to grow your business and have success?
For me, it's also perfectionism is a big one for me. Like I have that the golden cut for those who are familiar with that. Leonardo da Vinci's the Virtual Man. I just have that in me. If I see something that is out of that, just hurts me. Like I see a millimeter of difference between left and right. I just see it and I can not be quiet. Patience. Like my expectation for perfectionism is the desire for that is very high. I have very high standards because this is how I am based on my perfectionism. So I started to expect that from everybody, everyone around me who I hire in my surroundings. And with that, a lot of things come. You start to judge, you start to sometimes be straightforward, which is fine for me, but often not for them. So these are the things that I struggle with in business and life. It lapped over. And how I overcame that is, I would say, three main things. First, stay humble and admit that this is a challenge that you can grow in and overcome. The second one is increase your awareness to actually catch these things when you are in that mode. And then number three, learn how to delegate and trust other people. We don't have to be the best in everything all the time. There are other people who are better in what they do because this is their genius of expertise, and to just learn to trust and really learn how to delegate, to not expect stuff to get back to perfect, but to actually analyze it, be patient, give them the next step and the next step and the next step, and ask the right question while you delegate. Let them own the task and the timeline and all that stuff. Yeah, this is for me how I overcame these things. And there's still sometimes stuff sneaking, but again, awareness is here. And then I have that dialogue with myself and just analyze it, remember, and go again. And that's a daily thing for me.
Yeah, it's one of the things I have to do too is but I like the awareness, right? If I'm aware of it, then I can work on it. The consistency comes right back into that too. And for me, it's making sure that I'm actually delegating the things to other people. I don't know. My weakness, I guess, would be the desire to just do it myself. I was like, I can just do this myself and realize that doesn't actually help my business grow. A lot of times I have to how do I unlock other people? Being consistent with my delegation and then trying to build systems for myself that I know how this is how I can delegate more efficiently. And then realize that you judge other people's work, not the same way that you would judge your own work. Right. That sounds like one of the things that you're looking at is, hey, when we're talking about other people's work, it's like there's a process to it. You're going to see their work and you're going to give them the feedback and you're going to have a feedback loop. Whereas, like when you do something yourself, the feedback loop is internal. So it happens really fast. Right. That's why, because, for your first draft of everything is not perfect either. So that's where, like, when you're delegating to someone, you have to figure out how do you build that feedback loop into the delegation process. It sounds like what you were talking about is like you have to be able to delegate that way.
Yeah, I like that. One thing that I learned a few years ago, because I had bigger companies with a lot of employees, but it was all in house and now everything is online. So I have employees all over the world and some VAs. And what I learned is that goes into the area of awareness. It's not just awareness that I am like this or expecting things. It also includes that almost every day ask myself a question when I try to do something myself. Is this particular task a task that a $100 million CEO would do himself? Yes or no? And if
That's
it's not, I just know, hey, what are you doing? You are way too expensive to do this task. Get rid of it and delegate it.
Yeah. See, that's a really great question because it forces you to put a value on the task that you're doing and realize that, okay. And I know, like, for me, like, our business is still fairly small, right? In the grand scheme of things, we're not $100 million, but we have the potential to be $100 million company. And so we have to operate like we're trying to build $100 million company. That's what you're talking about, is you're talking about operating from the beginning as if you're building something that is that size and what would it actually look like. So you're going to have to delegate those things or build the systems or unlock the right people so that you have someone who's doing those things.
Right. I would even go one step further and say, I'm not trying as I want to build. I try to act as if I would be already in the present moment. I just operate differently. If I try to visit my vision, like when I'm pray or when I meditate,
Yeah.
I try to literally go there and be in that present moment. This is how I try to build the company. I'm not necessarily trying to build something. I try to operate as if already achieved.
Yeah.
This is even what I tell my employees. I say, hey, like Paul, you are expensive for this task. We need to break that down and find an assistant. I just analyze stuff like that to spend time efficient and the trade of this is what many employees don't understand, right? We hire them to do a task and they often are in the state of, I did what I'm hired for. But what they often don't realize, and that's a leadership problem, is yeah, I hired you to do in order to produce results for the company and not to just do the task completed, need to create a result for the company. This is something that need to be communicated, that every task should create a result for the company and actually give a return of invest. And this is where team culture and all that stuff comes in. But yeah, I think that's a very important part of every business.
Absolutely. I love that. I like the concept, particularly of thinking about, hey, what is not that you're doing the task for task's sake, but what is the result the end company is getting? Just personally, one of the things that I know that crosses my mind is because we do post production of content for clients. A lot of our operational work is it's like the delivery of service for clients. So like just off the top of my head, I'm thinking, okay, so if we have a writer who's doing the writing bits for someone's podcast or someone who's doing the video editing, what's the result that it creates for our company? Like thinking through that is like the result for our company is if the work is really good and we get it out into the market for the client, that the client's going to turn around and say, and maybe give us a referral or like that. So that's whereas it's not just we did the writing work or we did a good job on the video, but like that we did such a good job with it that it creates a positive outcome for our clients that turns into more revenue opportunities for the business. I like that framing to thinking of like, you're not just hired to do a task, you're hired to actually do a task that produces a result, no matter where it fits in the business. My example was like operations. A lot of times we think in terms of like marketing has an invested result, but even your operations can have the same kind of thing. What's the actual investment for the company? And like thinking through that, I think that's a useful frame.
Yeah, it is.
I'll definitely, I'll be stealing that and probably talking to our staff about that more often, just more clearly communicating how your work produces results for the company. So let's talk a little bit
Yeah.
then your common enemy, right? Shift gears a little bit off of superpowers and fatal flaws. And common enemy, right? Every superhero has an arch nemesis, right? It's the thing that they fight against in their world. And in the world of business, it takes a lot of forms. So we like to put it in the context of your clients, right? So when you're a PR company now, it's a mindset or a flaw that they come to you with, you constantly have to fight to overcome, actually get them the result that they came to you for in the first place. So in this world of helping people build personal brands, what is your common enemy?
Ego. If I compare it like the blue ocean strategy, I don't like to swim in that red ocean. It's too bloody for me, but most clients do. And I always separate that very clearly. And I say, we do not produce or deliver any ego, I call it ego features. So I really ask like every single client, why do you want to be published on Forbes or Entrepreneur or be on the podcast or TV or like, why do you want to have that brand of yours out there? What's the reason? What's the purpose? What's the value for today's society, why does that make the world a better place? I literally can use that. I wish I wouldn't. Most of the time, there's a lot of ego involved. It's what everybody does. I think this is how you build a personal brand, which is all partly true. But I decided to only work with entrepreneurs who come from the place of purpose to have more impact. For them, it's an obligation to be out there because everything is aligned. Their core values, their identity in action, who they truly are. They are on mission with how they think, act, and feel with what they do every single day. And they go towards their vision. So identity, values, mission, and vision, it's a straight, clear line. They just have to do it. They just have to do that in order to have the impact that they truly want to have in this world. This is where I draw that line. For me, it's definitely so many people come from that place of ego because they don't know truly who they are, what they do, what they truly want, and how to actually get there. They just grab some ideas and want something without have that deep foundation and root that I believe entrepreneurs need to build a true valuable foundation for a personal brand. It's not just like a feature here and there. They come and disappear. If you want something that have deep roots and a foundation that you actually can build on for the years to come, the main thing is, where do you come from, the place of ego or from the place of purpose? And you can have the same goals, but the intention is what makes the difference. Just like my 100-day water fast, there are people starving themselves to death because of a hunger strike. Why do they die on day 70, 80, 90? Do I look like it on day 80, 90? 7 days in, I gotta be looking to the gym. Why do I survive healthy and others with the same outcome or thing? They die. For me, it's the intention. Why do you do what you do? Do you want to demonstrate something in your area with an intention and you're going to achieve it? Or do you do it for a different reason and you're going to achieve it too? The belief, the mindset, like everything. Same thing here, personal branding, being out there. Why do you do that? What's your intention, the truth within, not just some BS coming up that sounds good and everybody wants your real truth within. Are you able to express that again in how you think, act, and feel? That's what makes the difference. But to come back to your question, for me, it's definitely ego.
Yeah, I really like that. I like the way you talk about it too, because I've seen that in my own personal brand as we've grown. Is I realized that for the longest time, people are like, "Oh, you should go on podcasts or you should get the Forbes mention or whatever." And I'm like, I don't understand why you would just want to check the box. Like, I check the box. Yes, I've been on Ford and CNN and whatever it is, and I've been on 100 different podcasts. And it seems like that's one of the things is like it's like a checklist of here's the checks, the boxes you check to have a personal brand. And sure, you could do that, but it'll be a soulless personal brand. It'll be heartless. There won't be anything there. There's no substance to it. What I've realized for myself is I've gotten to the point now where I get invited to speak on stages quite a lot and get in-person stages or virtual stages and realize that it's starting to happen naturally. And part of it is because like I know exactly what it is that I'm trying to convey to the marketplace. And like it becomes, like you said, it's an obligation. Like I have to get up and I have to share these ideas that I have with people. And if I don't, then I'm doing not just myself a disservice or my company a disservice, but I'm doing the people of a service that I didn't show up and actually pass this information on to them. Like their world is worse if I don't get up and share the things that I know with. And it's become like I said, I don't think there's a better word for it. There's an obligation to it. It's
Yeah.
not even obligation has a weird negative connotation to it, and that's not quite right. I think it's more of a studier of the Bible. So you probably are familiar with this term. There's a Greek term called philatemos, which is the
Mhm.
love of doing work well because it has a positive impact on your community, right? So it's like the idea of I do the dishes in my family, not because we have dirty dishes and they need to be done, but because when I do the dishes and do a good job of it, it has a positive impact on my family, right? They have a cleaner kitchen, they can cook. There's a positive impact on your community. So when you show up and you do your work well, I don't think we have a good word for it in English. That's why I brought up the Greek word philatemos. It's a love of the good work that you're doing.
For me, and I completely agree. For me, the result of what we're discussing right now is a very deep inner satisfaction because it's all interconnected. Back in the health industry, I created a concept called the core four, which is all about health, mind, harmony, and wealth. It's the four main areas of life. The ripple effect is there. Everything is completely interconnected. And within, we know that. So if we do something from within, from the place of love, it creates a satisfaction because we know that our core, our truth just knows that it's not just for ourselves. It creates an environment that appreciates it, which comes back to us in once.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite examples of that in my own life was actually, but it was a little more than a year ago. I was on a trial for a murder trial. I got to be on the jury and getting to interact with the people in the United States justice system. So the justice system, I don't know if you've ever heard this because you didn't spend your life as an American citizen. They talk about the three branches of government. They talk about the presidency being the mind and the Congress being the body, and then the justice system, the courts and whatnot being the heart of America. And realizing that like the jury, the trial by jury is really it's part of that whole the heartbeat of America kind of thing. What was interesting to me is like you show up in the courtroom for the first time and like the bailiff that was running the courtroom, like I talked to this guy, he's been a bailiff in that courtroom for 25 years. And I'm like, oh, he's like, how many courtrooms have you worked? He's like, this one. This is my courtroom. He holds it in the highest regard. And he will do everything, including and up to sacrificing his life to protect that courtroom because it's the heartbeat of America kind of thing. And every single person in the room, whether it was the judge or the attorneys or the court stenographer, they all operated with that love of their work, right? That their work matters and it matters to other people. Love of your work when you're talking about PR, it's the opposite of ego. He doesn't just show up at the courtroom because it's his courtroom. He shows up there because he loves what they're doing. He loves the work that they're doing and has that obligation to himself and to his community to show up and do good work. So that's what you're talking about is like, hey, the opposite of that is the ego, where you just show up because I want to show up and I want to have a big face and I want to have a big name and I want everyone to know me like everyone knows Elon Musk kind of thing. You're like, that's not why Elon Musk shows up. If you ever listen to the guy talk, he's like, no, I've got an obligation. We have to become multiplanetary or it's deep seated in his soul. Like he has to do this work. And that's what you're talking about. That's where the difference is. Like you just have to do this because it's required for you to do your work.
Yeah. It's the only way to truly fulfill your inner passion and talents that you discovered and that you feel, okay, this is why I'm here for. You just tap into that 100% and just, for me, again, you not do it. You just have to. And when you realize that, you don't have stage fright, right? When you go on stage, because now it's no longer about you. You just have to be up there and connect with people and spread your message because the impact that you have if they get it. So you are really into like, how do I communicate or structure my speech in order for my audience to understand what I truly mean so that they can actually take and use what I know will help them get to their personal next level, whatever the area is that you're operating from. This becomes the main objective and result. And then money and fame and all that stuff can be a side effect, the positive side effect that results out of the results that it produce coming from that passion and again, obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
Reminds me of the Sermon on the Mount. People all the time talk about Jesus getting up on the Sermon on the Mount. He's giving the commandments. This is how you should live. I always feel like the people who preach that, I'm like, I think you missed the idea. What he didn't say do these things because that's what you should do. He was like, no, listen, like this is the operating system for the world. Like I wrote it. Like I wrote the operating system and one of the rules of the operating system is first give and then you shall receive. That's what we were talking about. When you realize that the obligation, when you have that deep-seated obligation to give first, then the results are going to come back because that's the way he wrote the operating system.
Yeah, I like that. Especially if it comes to that particular part, for me, it's always a first serve to deserve.
Serve
Like
to
first you give and then, yeah.
I like that. I like that. That's so I want to talk about the flip side of your common enemy. So if your common enemy is the ego, then your driving force is the flip side of that coin, right? Just like Spider-Man fights to save New York or Batman fights to save Gotham or Google fights to index and categorize all the world's information. What is it that you fight for in your business today? What's your mission, so to speak?
My mission statement, actually, I have one for my personal brand as a business and life strategist. And then for the PR, we help visionary entrepreneurs to achieve their goals through effect strategies, focusing on personal branding. For me, it's more the reason why this is the case. And I go back when I came to the US and actually applied for the green card here. That was during COVID. What I realized in today's society, not just in the US, everywhere, is that the majority of society, intentionally or not, the fact for me was most people are followers. They see, they hear, they follow orders. And one of my main core values is self-responsibility. And what that taught me is today's society, we need leaders, true leaders, goal getters, people who get stuff done, people who don't wait for the change, but decide to be the change. Get up and get it done. Don't wait for anybody or anything. You can literally be the change, like all of us. We can be the change for anything if we just are brave enough, get up and get stuff done. Start the first step. We don't need to achieve everything at one time. We don't need to climb the mountain with one step. We just decide to change and to be part of it and take the lead. True leaders. That's why my company is called Strategy Achievers. We don't try. We don't hope. We achieve stuff. It's a qualifier. Achievers. And this is why I created a company and went into personal branding, because for me, it's like when you go online, most people go online for one of the three main reasons. They want to buy something, they have a problem that they want to have solved, like how to, whatever, or they want to achieve a desired result, a desired state of being faster. So they pay for speed. But when I go to the problem part, especially in the health industry, me coming from the health industry, I found it a disaster how many pretenders and ego-driven people, for the sake of money and fame, give advice in an area that can destroy, literally destroy. It's not for the guy or the girl who buy your product or service that doesn't provide any value or even mislead. That person probably have a family, have kids, have an environment that will be infected. Again, ripple effect goes into every area, positive, negative, or whatever. And what I then decided to do is I stay away from ego-driven people and pick only 10 clients every single month that we onboard. We have 400 to 800. It was 800. We dropped a lot because of something that happened in the business. Between 400 and 800 discovery calls every single month that turn into about 100 sales calls. We only onboard 10 people every single month. The people that are aligned with our core values, that we believe have a service or product that today's society need in order to change it, again, create the world that you and I want to live in. And that's it. We work with 10 people. And that's for me the flip side from ego, to really be committed and actually say, okay, what do we do? Why do we do this? And how can we create that world that I want to live in, that I imagine to be my reality, my kids' reality, changing one by spotlighting and help entrepreneurs grow one leader at a time. 10 leaders per year brings us 20 new leaders that actually dominate in their niche, and they each have followers and create a ripple effect. And 1 year in, 2 years in, 4 years in, 10 years in, we literally create influential entrepreneurs that we believe this world need. And that's why we do what we do the way we do it. And this is how, again, we go into the red ocean, into the blue ocean, and be very consistent and strict with how we operate.
I say I really like that. And the thing that sticks out to me is that you mentioned we have an obligation to show up, right? That's the common enemy you talked about, is getting rid of the ego. And so if you have an obligation to show up, then it only makes sense to show up in the best way possible, right? To put your best foot forward and to bring out the best work. And so your process that you were describing is, hey, we're looking for the best of the best so that we can actually build this influential leadership. I think that there's a lot of ways that we could apply that to other people who are listening to yours. If you get to that point where you understand your obligation, then by default, if it's an obligation to show up and do good work, then what you're going to end up with, you're going to end up with in a place where your business is constantly striving to do better, right? How do I have a better service? How do I have a better product? How do I have better lead sources in the marketplace, right? How do I get better people to say yes to us, right? And so like everything is like a constant improvement on what you're working on so that you can satisfy that obligation.
Yeah, I agree. For me, this is a very important process that I believe every business should consider and implement. It's not just the product and the service that we have, it goes one level deeper. And to really be conscious. And again, like what we talked about in the beginning of the show, communicated with every single team member. I don't want anybody who works for me. I want them to work with me because they believe in the vision and they want to be part of achieving that with me. This is how I create a company culture. People who want to achieve the vision with me because they believe in it. It becomes part of their mission. And this is a completely different source than just having people, I call them time traders. That doesn't help me be faster. I need committed people who really believe in what we do. They show up differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to shift again and talk a little bit about some practical things. We call this the hero's tool belt. And just like every superhero has their magic, their awesome gadgets like their batarangs or their web slingers or their magic hammer they can spin around. I'm going to talk about the top one or two tools that you use and that you couldn't live without in your business. Could be anything from your notepad that you keep your ideas on, to your calendar, to your marketing tools, to something you use for your product delivery, something you think is essential to getting your job done every day as a personal branding company.
For me, it's personally, it's literally appointment that I do with myself. You mentioned it. For me, I have a very strict daily schedule that I follow together with my wife. I'm very lucky to have my wife doing that with me. For example, we have times during the summer. For example, my calendar says 3 a.m., get up with gratitude, have a cold shower, tea time, meditation, and then 60 minutes walk in the morning. Then I read my ID vision mission statement every single day. I do my daily performance trackers. Then I have the huddle meeting with the team. Then I have all my appointments. Then I break the fast at 2:30 if I eat with a smoothie or a fresh juice. Look at my financials every day. A delegation meeting with myself. Answer LinkedIn. All that stuff. And then 5 o'clock, prep food together with my wonderful wife is in my agenda. Or on Saturday, 6 o'clock, we have date night with my wonderful wife. Like all this stuff that we schedule in the evening again, read ID Vision Mission, watch the Mind movie that we did, and then be in bed, gratitude, affirmation. A very strict schedule for really literally every day, and have that performance tracker where I then go in and say, okay, did I do what I want to do or not? Because that gives me at the end of the month or of the week, I'm very conscious and aware of, if I did only 60% of what I committed to do, how can I expect 100% results in all these areas? But I see also exactly this week, here is where you sucked completely. Like focus on these two areas for the next week and try to keep up everything that you did good and you were of 80%. So that very tight, strict through schedule, it's not just something I came up like between Christmas and New Year. I sat down with my wife. We spent literally 1.5, 2 weeks only. What do we want? How do we want it? Why do we want it? Let's sit together, create a schedule. Is it realistic? Enough time? Do we create pressure or is that flawless? All that stuff. Once we are sure, that becomes the schedule for 4 milestones, 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Then we always add a little bit things or exchange things. But having that guideline so that I not get tempted to not do things or do something else, to say 10 days of work, very intensive, don't even allow anything of the shiny objects or however you want to call it to become part of your routine. This is the way on how you achieve what you truly want. So block it, save and protect your time. That's one thing. And the other thing is for me to do something, which is actually also part of the plan, to do something in all areas of life. Like I mentioned, core 4, health, mind, harmony, and wealth. We have 4 visions, actually 5, the life vision, and then health, mind, harmony, and wealth. Each have a vision. And these visions are connected to goals, quarterly goals. If I want to look and feel like this, what do I need to have to do the next 3 months every single day? So we break down milestones and every area have its own vision. And we do something for every area of life. For health, it's all about the body, nutrition, exercise, and well-being. Mind, it's all about purpose, identity, vision, and mission. Then we have harmony. It's all about love, fun, relationships, and balance. And then wealth, it's all about finances, fulfillment, impact, and financial freedom. So what can we do in all of these areas in order to grow? Like you said, you do something a little bit every day, it's compounding, it's accumulating. Kobe Bryant talked about that. You go and play on the court 1 hour more than everybody else every single day. The difference with time, it's just like
Yeah.
you
That's
can't compare anymore. It's just a natural result. And we do that in all areas of life.
I love that. I love how methodical you have that process. I'm probably going to, we'll extract that section and turn it into a small piece for people so they can see it. But the thing that I want to point out is you mentioned your calendar. And one of the things that I've noticed is that success that is very common among successful entrepreneurs, especially we have a lot of them on this show, is how often they live or die by their calendar. Right. And the calendar is such an important part of your life because you get the same 24 hours every day that I get and the same 24 hours that everyone else that's on your team and every person on the planet. We all get the same 24 hours. And so why is it that you can achieve more in the same 24 hours than someone else does? Or why is it that Kobe Bryant can achieve more on the court than another basketball player? And it has to do with what you choose to do with that calendar time that you're given. And so you're very intentional about how you're using all of the time that you have every day. And I just want to point that out because you're talking not just about, hey, we're doing the time blocking, but then those time blocks they're intentional, right? They fit in one of these four categories and we're trying to have growth in any of these particular areas. So that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Speaking of heroic tools, I want to take a few minutes to tell you about a tool we built that powers the Hero Show and is now this show's primary sponsor. Hey there, fellow podcaster. Having a weekly audio and video show on all the major online networks that builds your brand, creates fame, and drives sales for your business doesn't have to be hard. I know it feels that way because you've tried managing your show internally and realize how resource intensive it can be. You felt the pain of pouring 8 to 10 hours of work into just getting 1 hour of content published and promoted all over the place. You see the drain on your resources, but you do it anyways because you know how powerful it is. Heck, you've probably even tried some of those automated solutions and ended up with stuff that makes your brand look cheesy and cheap. That's not helping grow your business. Don't give up though. The struggle ends now. Introducing Push Button Podcasts, a done-for-you service that will help you get your show out every single week without you lifting a finger after you've pushed that stop record button. We handle everything else: uploading, editing, transcribing, writing, research, graphics, publication, and promotion, all done by real humans who know, understand, and care about your brand almost as much as you do. Empowered by our own proprietary technology, our team will let you get back to doing what you love while we handle the rest. Check us out at pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero for 10% off the lifetime of your service with us and see the power of having an audio and video podcast growing and driving micro celebrity status and business in your niche without you having to lift more than a finger to push that stop record button. Again, that's pushbuttonpodcast.com/hero. See you there. And now, back to the Hero Show.
So I want to talk one more question for you. Your guiding principles. Right. One of the things that makes heroes heroic is that they live by a code. For instance, Batman never kills his enemies. He only ever puts them in Arkham Asylum. So as we wrap up the interview, I want to talk about the top one, maybe two principles that you live your life by that maybe something you wish you'd know when you started out in your business career all those years ago, in Taekwondo as an orphan child in Switzerland.
I think two things. The first one is to really respect everything and everybody, no matter what. Like in business, employees, clients, people on the street, the government, anybody. I think to judge people is duality. We separate ourselves from other people. I learned late in life that the all is the one and the one is the all, the body of Christ, or however you want to call it. At the end, we start to compare ourselves. We try to be someone as someone instead of really realize that we have everything within us that we need in order to inspire, empower, change, create, if we just learn how to be who we truly are. I think often we hear the term, especially from leaders in today's age, you need to change your reality, which we can influence, but you need to change your personality, You need to change your identity. I don't believe in all that. I believe we have one identity given. And what happens is, if this is our identity here that is given, and I call it the light or love, what happened throughout life is that every experience that we have individually is a label that covers up who we truly are. And now all these labels, fear and anxiety and anger and judgment and frustration and different other beliefs that we create, it covers up who we truly are. So we don't need to change anything because the core is who we truly are. What we need to do is take these freaking labels off,
Yeah.
limiting beliefs, like things that we believe made us who we are today is a frame that we hear so often. But what is behind all that? So many times, like I ask people like, okay, this is who you believe you are. What I actually read is a job description or past experiences. And now you believe this is who you are based on these experiences. Let's take all these experiences away. What is behind all that? Like, or I have people like, do you agree we all die one day? Yes, of course we do. Okay, so it's fair to say that one day we will drop our body, right? You're probably going to be in the space one day and say, okay, I'm going to drop my body. Yeah, most likely. Okay, who is I? Who is the I that dropped that body? And this is where people start to truly know who you are behind all that stuff in the core, to connect with that truth and express that truth in all you do. That's a big one for me.
So learning who you are and learning to respect not only yourself, but everyone around you, because they all have that same core, right? They have that spark of divinity, right? We're all children of God.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're a team member or a client or a homeless person on the street, right? We're all members of this human race.
Yeah. And you know, the thing that I do in a daily practice, when I mentioned the word church goer in the beginning, what I actually mean by that is, if I truly understand that we all have that seed that God planted into us, we have that all within somewhere. For some, it's covered up with iron, an iron frame, some of just some papers, but somewhere within us, there is that seed. If we truly know that, and I don't judge the other human being based on what they do, because what they do is obviously a label. It's an experience that they had in life that lets them react or act the way they do. And now I perceive that based on where I stand from, like it's my perception and my emotional state of being, how I react to that. That's a choice. I can influence that. But if I leave all that away and say, I try to connect with the truth, which is the same as I have within me, it helps me to not judge. Because how can I judge myself? We are all one. Try to connect with the light, with the love in the other person, and oversee their action, which are based on past experiences that they have. They get mad or angry because of something, how they grow up, what they just experienced. Maybe they had a fight in their home. Maybe their family member just died or whatever. They have their own reasons, which we don't understand. We don't understand how they feel, in what state they are. And based on that, we just perceive a reaction, and now we judge the reaction instead of trying to connect the part with the true identity of that human being. That's something I try to do when I found, and again, increase my own awareness and I feel like I'm judging. Boom. Why do you judge? Try to connect with the law. Be kind, be friendly, be supportive, ask a nice question, give a nice tip, give advice, or just give them a smile or whatever instead of judging.
I love that. And I think that's a great place to wrap our interview on that message. So I do finish all of our interviews with something I'll call the Heroes Challenge. Heroes Challenge is simple. It's basically a way for us to get access to stories we might not otherwise find on our own. So the question is this: do you have someone in your life or in your network who you think has a cool entrepreneurial story? Who are they? First names are fine. And why do you think they should come share their story with us here on the Hero Show? First person that comes to mind for you.
Dr. Sass is my wife, and she's not just a friend or a wife. She's an entrepreneur who came as an immigrant from Thailand with her whole family, 6, 7 years old. And today all family members are doctors. She's a TV and podcast host. in a very unique way. And she's doing great stuff. I'm looking up to her as a friend. That's the first name came to my wife
Well, I'll see if
thinking.
invite her on and get her story up on the Hero Show. We always love to get more stories like that. So in comic books, there's always the crowd of people at the end who are cheering and clapping for the acts of heroism. So as we close, our analysis to that is, where can people find you? Where can they light up the bat signal, so to speak, and say, hey, Pascal, I need help with my personal brand? I think more important than where is, who are the right types of businesses or the right type of people to reach out?
Where they can find me personally, both websites are connected to the same social media accounts. One is my personal, which is pascalbachmann.com. And the business website is strategyachievers.com. And the right businesses that we're looking for are really driven business owners who believe that what they do in life can be a contribution to the society that creates the world that we will all want to experience. Like, can be a product, can be a service. But if someone really believes that what I do contributes to create a better world, these are the people that we're looking for. I don't care about the industry. I always care about the business owner behind the service or products. Because again, this is where I connect with the human being. And we are looking forward to talk to a lot of people who we can help shine and make a difference in this world.
Absolutely. So we will definitely make sure that there's links to those websites in the show notes below. Pascal, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us today. I really appreciate your time, just the thought and care that you put into the things that you are working on. So I appreciate that and look forward to seeing what it is that you guys do to just continue to improve the world. I love your mission there. So do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience before I hit this stop record button?
Be yourself and be brave enough to get up and spread your word. And I believe that every single one of us is not just enough. We can be the change if we decide to.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today, Pascal. And we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Hero Show, where we work to shift the cultural narrative around entrepreneurship and celebrate the heropreneurs who make our world a better place. Don't forget to visit our website at theheroshow.tv, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. If you found value in our show, we'd truly appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or better yet, share it with a friend to help us spread the message of entrepreneurship as a force for good. Curious to learn more about the stories and insights of these incredible heropreneurs? Check out our in-depth interviews and resources on our website. Together, let's support and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs as they embark on their own heroic journeys. Join us again next week for another episode of The Hero Show, where we'll continue to explore the world of heropreneurs, their superpowers, and the positive impact they bring to our lives. Until then, stay heroic.